Hey guys, today's video is about Maxpeedingrods, their Q96 Android head unit. This thing has a 4-core processor with 2 GB of RAM, and it has Android Auto and Apple CarPlay for all around $130. Let's check it out. So your first question is probably going to be, who are Maxpeedingrods? And they actually make different car accessories like turbos and coilovers, and they have now decided to delve into the world of Android head units. This one's actually been around for a few months now. The Q96 was released late last year, and there's a few other YouTubers have already reviewed it. So I thought I'd check it out for myself and let you guys know what I think. This particular one has a quad-core CPU with 2 gigs of RAM, which isn't amazing, but if you consider the price point, it also has Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, and that's probably the main reason why people are going to buy this particular unit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get it out of the box, and then I'm going to play with it on the camera with you so that you can sort of see what it's capable of. Before I do, I just want to remind you that I don't get paid to endorse any company or products, including this Maxpeedingrods device. This is more about me just sort of sharing my opinion, as I do with all of the other brands of Android head units that I do on this channel. Right, let's go and do it now. And here it is. And this is actually rather an interesting device for many reasons. First of all, on the front here, aside from the lovely volume knob, we have a couple of USB ports. This one has a charge logo, so maybe this is a fast charge port. And then you've got your reset button and your microphone up here as well. And you also have a 3.5-inch auxiliary input as well. And then on the back, we have the main loom entry point here. We have the other connections, which I'll go into in just a second. And then we have the FM radio antenna input here. I think that's probably the GPS antenna input. And then we have the HDMI here, and then this fan. This is actually looking rather nice. Looks like a standard double DIN form factor as well. Right, let's see what else is in the box. So we have a color user manual, which is awesome. We have a couple of plastic removal tools. They've given us like a microfiber cloth to clean the screen, which is a really nice touch. I've never seen that before on any other brands. We've got some brackets, and then we have a GPS antenna. We have a main loom with ends that you have to connect up yourself. We have a reverse camera input wire. We have an additional 2 USB ports to complement the 2 that are actually on the front as well. And then we have this loom, which has a bunch of RCA connections on it, which is very interesting because if we have a look at it, you can see that they actually have 5.1 written on here. So you got front left, front right, rear left, rear right, and then you have center, but center is actually split into left and right as well. So that's 6 RCAs. And then we have the subwoofer. The subwoofer again is stereo. It has left and right, so we have 8 RCA outputs. That's crazy. That's a lot of channels. It does beg the question on how it's decoding to all of those channels. You also have video in from an RCA perspective on this, and a video out RCA as well. And then we have the line in, so you've got auxiliary input here and the amp trigger wire. And this also has a connection for the external microphone as well. Right, let's go and see how good it is. So if you haven't seen it before, this thing is my Jukebox Test station, and it is how I test Android head units from within the comfort of my studio. It has been modified to just plug and play with any of the Android head units that I receive. As you can see, the Maxpeedingrods head unit is currently installed. And so what we're going to do is we're going to hit the power button, which simulates the turning on of the ignition of the car, and we're going to see how long it takes to boot up. So it's on now, and there's the Android logo. Maxpeedingrods since 2006. And there we go, we're on the launcher dashboard, and as you can see, it has a little animation with a sweep of the needle of the widget for the speedo. On the front here, we have two major widgets, one for miles per hour speedo, and the other one is a time and date widget. And then we have an image of a car here in the center. Below, we have a widget for local music, and then we have the radio widget over here. And then on the left-hand side, we have some shortcuts. So we have navigation, Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, local music playback for any music that you've put onto the head unit or you're playing via USB stick. Then you have Bluetooth, and then this one down here just gives you access to all of the other apps that you might have installed on the head unit. Now, as launchers go, it's fine. It doesn't really have some of the nicer quirks that I like to see. For example, the ability to have any app that you want, you're going to frequently use on the dashboard, that's not there. And it only has local music playback widget, so you can't have Spotify, for example, with a widget on here for playing back Spotify tracks. And then there is one other thing that really annoys me about this particular launcher, and that is if you go into the radio, it's cool that it changes the launcher, because what we're looking at here is still the launcher, but it's changed it so that the radio is the prominent feature on here. However, you can't go back to how it was before. There's no way to go back to the original launcher with the speedo, because if you press down here where the time is now, it just takes you to the time settings, and there's nothing really that you can do. But looking at the radio, if we go into the radio, this is basically a standard stuff from a radio perspective on an Android head unit. Again, it doesn't allow RDS stations to be on the actual preset buttons down here, but it does allow you to preset the frequencies onto these. So you can have all your radio stations set. It just doesn't show the RDS radio station name on the actual buttons itself. However, I will say this particular radio also has AM as well. That's very rare. A lot of Android head units just omit the AM functionality because a lot of people don't use it. But this Maxpeedingrods does actually have AM, which is pretty cool. So let's talk about the speed of the actual unit itself. So this Maxpeedingrods Q96 runs on a quad-core CPU with 2 GB of RAM, and the screen runs a 600p resolution. So 2 gigs of RAM, quad-core. Let's see how that actually performs in our everyday tests using Waze and Spotify. So we'll start with Waze. Yeah, that's not bad at all. It's not the fastest head unit that we've ever tested, but remember, this is a budget head unit with a quad-core processor and 2 gigs of RAM, so actually that's not that bad. Okay, so let's try Spotify. Okay, yeah, so that's actually pretty fast, and for a quad-core processor with 2 gigs of RAM, it's pretty nice. And of course, one of the benefits of having an Android head unit is that you can actually switch between open applications, so you don't have to wait for them to load up again. Even with the 2 gigs of RAM, you can have a couple of applications running side by side. And one of the other benefits of having this particular head unit from Maxpeedingrods is that it has the ability to actually have apps side by side. So you're not running Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, but you have the full version of Waze or Google Maps or whatever on one side of the screen, and the full version of Spotify running on the other side of the screen. And that's awesome. That really gives you a lot of control without being restricted to having Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. Obviously, one of the other main benefits of having an Android head unit is that you can run pretty much any app that you want on it. So you can see you have the likes of Netflix, we have YouTube over here as well, so all the video apps function fine. And then of course there's other apps that I personally rather like the music visualizations. Again, that's kind of a me thing, but Android head units give you that functionality, and you don't get that on, you know, some of the big brand units. Okay, so we'll talk about Android Auto and Apple CarPlay now. So this does actually have wireless Android Auto and wireless Apple CarPlay, and I've just connected it via Bluetooth to this head unit, my phone, and you can see that the Z-Link has automatically started up, and now it has connected to Android Auto. So that's rather quick, and it's completely wireless, as you can see here, and I have access to everything. I have full screen audio, full screen maps, or indeed both at the same time, as Android Auto offers, and obviously all the other apps are accessible that are actually compatible with Android Auto as well. So let's try Apple CarPlay. So there's Maxpeedingrods car, it's 4 zeros for the password, and there we go. So we have full Apple CarPlay currently on the screen here, and yeah, it looks absolutely fine, bright and vivid, and has access to all of the Apple CarPlay related apps on my iPhone on the screen there as well. So that's pretty much all that you really want from a head unit like this, so that you just switch it on, it automatically connects to your phone via Bluetooth, and then kicks you straight onto the navigation and audio stuff that you're used to. Okay, so all that's really left for us to talk about at this stage is the audio quality. So if we pull down from the top and go to equalizer, then we can access the ability to control the audio output of this Maxpeedingrods device, and you can see here that you have the graphic equalizer. You can't actually control it from a mass perspective like some of the other ones you can, but you can individually control the frequencies using these sliders here. But if you don't want to faff about with all of that, then up here we have presets, and these are going to change all of the frequency bands all at once. So you can sort of play with it whilst you're playing some music and see if you can find that sound that you're looking for. Under the listening tab, we have the standard fade and balance options, and you can also change the distance between the speakers, which has a little bit of a delay to give you the sound that you're looking for. Output gives you some specific controls over the center, front, rear and subwoofer. So your subwoofer controls are in here. And then under frequency, you have high and low passes. And over here you have the ability to change between 5.1, two-way or three-way audio. So how does it sound? Well, it doesn't sound bad at all. It is a budget head unit, so you're dealing with sort of a lower priced amplifier which doesn't have a greatly powerful output, and the DSP is okay, but it's not great. It's definitely not going to rival some of the top end Android head units, but it's not meant to. The whole point of this is it is a budget head unit, and it's meant to be low priced. So you're not going to be disappointed with the audio for the price that you're paying, but you should be pretty happy. And there you have it. That's the Maxpeedingrods Q96. It is actually a pretty decent budget Android head unit. If I've missed anything, or if you have any questions, please ask in the comment section below. And if there's a specific brand of Android head unit that you'd like me to have a look at, please let me know and I'll see what I can do. Until next time.